do it afraid. Do it afraid. I had to walk away from my 25-year career. I had to leave my city, my ministry, everything that my friends, my home, everything that I was comfortable with to start all over. But I am so glad that I just took the leap of faith, even though I was afraid. Because you're never going to wake up and just not be afraid. Just do it and get out there, and you are going to be so surprised how quick you can become successful when you just take that leap of faith, overcome your fear, and just do it afraid. Hello, beautiful. Without Fear of Her Future podcast is for women who are passionately pursuing financial freedom, using multiple streams of income and real estate to accomplish their goals. We're here to empower you to be brave, dream big, and design a life that you love and inspires others to do the same. I am Tresa Todd, founder of the Women's Real Estate Investors Network and author of the best-selling book, Without Fear of Her Future. In the past 2 years, I have had over 200,000 women join my Masterclass, where I teach them how to become successful real estate investors. My co-host, Andrea Enstrom, is out today, so it's just you and I for a little fireside chat. And I am so excited to be with you. We have so many new listeners that today I thought I would share my story of how I became a real estate investor and eventually started the Women's Real Estate Investors Network. So the backstory is that I spent 25 years in the medical field. I was a certified ophthalmic assistant, which meant I assisted an ophthalmologist. At his office, I ran all kinds of tests, and I was the lead tech there. And then in surgery, I assisted, and we did cataract surgery, LASIK surgery, cornea transplants, again, for 25 years. And I really, really enjoyed my career. I'm so thankful for my career. That is how I raised my kids and wouldn't take anything for those 25 years. However, at the end of 25 years, I was only making about $60,000 a year. I could make up to $65,000 a year if I worked a lot of extra hours. So that's just what I knew. I knew how to make $60,000 a year. Now, alongside of that, my heart has always been about ministry. And so I have also spoke at women's retreats and taught Bible studies and women's conferences. And again, that has always been my true passion, but that was just a little side thing. So when my sons, they all became really successful real estate investors. So I have 3 grown sons. They were in Dallas, Texas, and they partnered together as real estate investors. And I mean, they were killing it. They had found their calling. They had found their niche. They had done over 100 real estate transactions in the first 2 years, which put them at the top 2% of real estate investors in the nation. So as a mom, just watching their success was so much fun. It was so exciting, so especially when your kids have become extremely successful and they're in business together and they are not killing each other. So I was just so content to be their cheerleader. And all along the way, they kept asking me, Mom, you need to come move to Dallas and let us teach you how to invest in real estate. And every single time I would say, oh, I'll think about it. I'll think about it. But the truth is, I wasn't thinking about it. Listen, I was 50 years old. I was very established in the medical field. That's what I knew. That's what I was comfortable with. So I just could not even fathom walking away from a 25-year career to start in a brand new industry that I knew nothing about at 50 years old. However, I got a call one night that really changed my mindset. Along my boys' success, one of the things that they realized that they loved teaching real estate as much as they loved doing real estate. Everybody around them was watching them find so much success, and they were saying, hey, how are you doing this? What is your secrets? And so they had began to teach and mentor other people, and again, found that they absolutely loved teaching real estate, especially my youngest son. He went on to have some of the most successful and well-known mentors all around the world. I mean, Hugh Hilton of Hilton Hotels. J2 Fox is the number one world wealth coach. I know you've heard of Grant Cardone, who is kind of the guru of gurus in the real estate world, and just many, many more. And he hired all of these because he wanted to learn every single thing he could. He wanted to know all about creative financing and all about advanced strategies in real estate investing. So back to the phone call that changed my life. Kelton, my youngest son, happened to be actually in Las Vegas that weekend on a stage teaching real estate investing to businessmen and women. And when he stepped off the stage at 9 o'clock that night, he called me. And I answered the phone, and I will never forget just the sound in his voice and the intensity. He said, "Mom, can you talk?" And I said, "Yeah, what's up?" And he said, "It's time." And he said, "It's time for you to move to Dallas and let us teach you how to invest in real estate." And I said, "Kelton, why? Why is this so important to you?" And he said, "Mom, if you don't, you're going to end up being a Walmart greeter." And I laughed and I said, "Why do you say that?" Well, a few months prior to this, he had been at my house in Tyler, Texas, and he had looked over all of my financial stuff. He was looking at how, my house payment, my 401k, my savings, and all of the things, and he really hadn't said much to me about it at the time, but obviously he had been thinking about it, because that night he said, "Mom, do you know that if you just continue to live the exact same lifestyle that you're living right now," which, please know, it was not an extravagant lifestyle. I've always just lived within my means. And so, I was able to, I always say I was able to go shop and buy a new pair of shoes every once in a while. I could take one vacation a month, and it was a vacation on a budget. I had to really think it out, had to save all year for that. But I was living a good life. And one of the things that I have since learned is that a good life can sometimes be the enemy of a great life. But he said, "Mom, if you just continue to live exactly same lifestyle that you're living, and you retired at 60 years old, you would have about 7 years of money left. And then you're going to have to find some kind of job. You're probably going to be a Walmart greeter." Not that there's anything wrong with being a Walmart greeter. That's just not what I had planned for my future. But you know what the truth is I hadn't planned. I just thought that everything was going to be all right because I did have a 401k and I did have a little bit of a savings, and I thought I was living within my means, and I just assumed, y'all, that I was going to be okay. I had never really crunched the numbers. I was living with my head in the sand. I'd love to ask you, are you living with your head in your sand? Do you really know what the future holds for you? How much money do you have? How long could you live before you have to find a second job or maybe start as the Walmart greeter? Well, needless to say, that was a night that I hardly slept. I could not stop thinking about everything that he said. And so after a few days, I called him back and I said, "Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a week off work and I'm going to come hang out with y'all in Dallas. I'm going to watch everything you do. I want to follow you around, and and there were two things. I had a prayer that when I got back into my car to go home after 5 days of being with them on that Friday, I wanted to know, first of all, could I really learn this? At 50 years old, could I take on this whole new industry and learn it and be successful? And then the other thing is, would I enjoy it? Well, I did exactly that. I spent a week with them just watching them do their thing and taking tons of notes and following them around. And they were flipping houses, and they were going to closings, and they were going to get properties under contract. And I was just right there with them, had a little notebook, and I was taking all the notes in the notebook. And by Wednesday of that week, oh my gosh, both things happened. I was having so much fun. I was like, holy cow, this is fun. And they were creating win-wins. I remember going with my middle son, who is just amazing with talking with sellers. And so I was watching him deal with them. And these were mostly people in a crisis situation. And he was able to create a win-win for them as well as for himself, buying properties where he was putting money in their pocket, but at the same time, buying these properties that were going to make him a lot of money. And so it was so eye-opening and so fun. And the thing that was the most exciting is I was understanding it. It was not near as difficult or near as overwhelming as what I had thought that it was going to be. And so I will never forget, I went home over the weekend. I thought about it. And on Monday morning, I went into work and I gave my 2 weeks notice, called a realtor, put my house on the market, and I moved to Dallas, Texas to become a full-time real estate investor. Y'all, that was I started April Fool's Day in 2017, and it has absolutely changed my life. I'll never forget getting my very first deal, and I made $20,000 in 8 days. At $20,000, that is 1/3 of my annual salary in the medical profession. And that was at the end of my medical profession. And then I went on in the next 4 months and made more money in that 4 months than I had in my 401k after 25 years. Oh my gosh. It was literally just changing my life. I was absolutely so excited and loved learning, loved just investing and all the doors that it was opening for me. Well, the thing that I was, I told you that I'd been in ministry. And so now I was super excited. I was like, holy cow, I had no idea that an average girl like myself could become a real estate investor. I didn't have a big stash of money somewhere to get started. And so I wanted everybody to know. I was like, women. So 97% of what real estate investors were men, and I wanted women, just average women like me that maybe were in the medical field or maybe in the insurance company or even realtors or just stay-at-home moms or homeschool moms. I wanted them to know that they didn't have to live like I did, paycheck to paycheck, taking a vacation once a year on a budget. I wanted them to know that they could find financial freedom, that they could get out of debt, that they could pay for their kids' college. And my kids all had to work their own ways through college, pay for their own weddings and all of those kinds of things. And so I kept saying, oh my gosh, women need to know this. Women need to know this. And so again, it was my sons that said, Mom, why don't you start something for women and teach women how to invest in real estate? And I only had 18 months of experience myself. And so again, I was like, well, I will someday. Someday I'm going to do that. And they're like, no, just do it now. I was like, what if they ask me a question I don't know? I don't know all the answers. They're like, but we do. And so, y'all, I just decided that's exactly what I was going to do. So I put a date on the calendar and I said, okay, on this day, I'm going to have my very first meeting. And I declared myself the founder of the Women's Real Estate Investors Network. And y'all, I was so afraid that nobody would even show up. I didn't know if women even wanted to learn how to invest in real estate. So I told everybody that I knew, and I declared that at 6 p.m. On that Thursday night that we were going to have our very first Women's Real Estate Investors Network meeting, and I put out some cookies and prayed that somebody would show up. And you know what? 40 women showed up in my office that night. And I taught them what I knew. And you know what? They did have questions that I didn't know the answer to. But I knew who had the answers. I had 3 sons. And so, and then we just kept meeting and kept meeting and kept meeting. And it just kept growing and growing. And then I started going all over the Metroplex here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And then I started growing and I went to Houston. And I would go to Houston and have meetings. And we were growing there. And then... listen, I'll never forget, in January of 2020, I kept seeing this ad about a challenge, an online challenge, and it was called 31 Days of Wisdom, and it was going to go through the book of Proverbs. And I thought, what a fantastic way to start my new year, going through Proverbs. And so I signed up for this challenge, and lo and behold, oh my gosh, it was amazing. And we were getting into the Bible and getting into the book of Proverbs every single day. But the person, Pedro Adeo, who was teaching that class, was also teaching if you wanted to learn how to actually have an online challenge. And y'all, I felt so compelled. I didn't even know why, because I was having live events. I had no intentions of changing that. But I just felt so compelled to attend his event to learn how to have an online challenge. So it was a quick decision. I flew off to Las Vegas and spent a few days there and took all the notes to learn how to have an online challenge. Took this notebook full of notes and came home, threw the notebook in the cabinet, and just went right back to having my live events. And y'all, 40 days after I came back, the world shut down due to COVID. And I will never forget watching the world, watching people lose their jobs, losing their 401ks, not knowing what they were going to do. Yet I knew that I had this specialized knowledge as a real estate investor, and that if I could share this with the world, that I could help them to find a way again, to create wealth and to get out of debt and all of the things. And so I ran and I grabbed that notebook off the shelf and I handed it to my team and I said, hey, let's go online and let's begin to teach women all over the nation. Well, first I just started in Texas. And so I started teaching women in Texas how to invest in real estate right in the middle of COVID. And they were finding so much success, and it was insane. And so then I said, okay, let's teach the women in Florida. And then we just kept growing and growing. And now we are nationwide. I teach women in all 50 states how to invest in real estate. And it has been the most exciting, one of the most fun things I have ever done is watching women have this specialized knowledge, women who were used to living paycheck to paycheck, women who had lost everything during COVID, find a way to create wealth, find financial freedom, have a retirement plan, and then begin to create legacy for their families. This is about long-term wealth and truly creating wealth and changing the whole entire trajectory of their families. And so now I have had the blessing of teaching over 200 women. 200,000 women have came through some of my online trainings to learn how to invest in real estate. And the Women's Real Estate Investors Network is the largest women's real estate investors network in the entire nation. As a matter of fact, we had a live event just a few months ago where we made history with almost 3,000 women in one room as real estate investors. It never been done. I am having so much fun watching women all over the nation just living out their dreams, living to their full potential, being able just to walk out their destinies. We are raising up what we call in the Women's Real Estate Investors Network, Womenaires. These are women who hit the $1 million mark by profiting $1 million as real estate investors. And every year at our live event, we are handing out awards and having them come up on stage and share their stories, because really what this is all about is creating an army of women all over the nation that find financial freedom for ourselves, and then we are able to go out and impact our nation, whatever that looks like to us. Every single one of us have a dream and a desire to do good in the world, I believe. And as we create the financial freedom to be able to give to each woman individually to what she is passionate about. So some women are passionate about giving to the poor, or maybe mental health, or people who struggle with drugs and alcohol. And so as they start nonprofits, or just give to a nonprofit, or start businesses of their own that now create jobs, or start ministries, it is just so much fun to watch this army of women who is the Women's Real Estate Investors Network all over the nation, making impact and making a difference. And so, hey, we always end this podcast with 3 takeaways that we want to leave with you. And so my 3 takeaways today is recognize an opportunity when you see it. My sons gave me an opportunity by saying, Mom, let us teach you how to invest in real estate. And oh my gosh, am I glad that I finally recognized the opportunity and took that leap of faith that has absolutely changed not only my life, but so many other women. And so when you take that leap of faith, just realize that it's not just about you, but it's about your family, and it's about your community and all of the people that your leap of faith is going to impact. And then number 2 is do it afraid. Do it afraid. First of all, I had to walk away from my 25-year career. I had to leave my city, my ministry, my friends, my home, everything that I was comfortable with to start all over. Then I had to do it afraid when I began the Women's Real Estate Investors Network. But I am so glad that I just took the leap of faith, even though I was afraid, because you're never going to wake up and just not be afraid. Just do it and get out there, and you are going to be so surprised how quick you can become successful when you just take that leap of faith, overcome your fear, and just do it afraid. And then my third piece of advice to you would be is just get started before you even believe you're ready. Because the truth is, we never believe we're ready. Whenever I started the Women's Real Estate Investors Network and I only had 18 months experience, I didn't feel ready. But what if I had just kept waiting until I thought that I knew enough, and that day would have never came. So I just want to inspire you to know that you're ready. It may not be pretty, it may not be perfect, you may not know all of the answers, but you can figure it out as you go. And if you will just get started before you think you're ready, even doing it afraid and making that leap of faith, you have no idea where that leap of faith can take you. And if you want to learn more about the Women's Real Estate Investors Network, then you can just reach out to WREIN.com. WREI.com. Come and check us out. Come check out our next Masterclass and learn how to live out your destiny as a real estate investor. And also make sure that you subscribe to this podcast so that you can be notified with every new podcast, and share this with your friends. I bless you. Dream big and be brave.